My name is Hector Irbarn. I'm here to present no-code content migration. How many of you have heard of the Migrate Module? Okay, good. So I will be talking about that module today. So basically this presentation is a way to leverage the Migrate Module to move content from one Drupal site to another without having to write any code. So a little bit about me. My name is, again, Hector Irbarn. I've been working on it with Drupal since 2007. Proud to be a local user group leader. We started a group back in South Florida in 2010. We meet every month for the last over 5 years now. So it's a good way to meet people, local community that are doing Drupal, or we also try to help people that are coming on board to Drupal. And there's my IRC on information for IRC and Drupal.org. And the two modules I'm going to be talking about today is modules I've written so you don't have to write code, and it's the content in and content out modules that are currently in a Drupal sandbox. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what I'm trying to get to. So normally when you use a Migrate module, you have to write code to say, for example, to import CSV file into Drupal. So the module that's something that I started doing, and I realized that it was kind of repetitive. So I tried to come up with a way to make that an easier thing to do. So I created this module called the content in module, and basically it takes, instead of having to write code to map your, say, CSV file to your Drupal site, you can, with 2 clicks, 1 click will actually create the migration inside Drupal, and then once the migration classes are set up, then you can migrate content into Drupal. So that's kind of the focus of the presentation. I just kind of wanted to let you know where the idea came from to create this module. So I'm not going to talk very long about the traditional way. I'm just going to show you a diagram to kind of show what people normally do. What I'm going to focus on is doing several demos where I show you how to export content from one Drupal site and then take those CSV files and import them into another site without writing any code. So that's kind of what I'll be talking about today. Okay, this slide is kind of what I'm going to be, the whole presentation in kind of one slide. So on the left side there, you see the traditional approach where you're trying to import content either from a database or from some kind of file, whether it's CSV, JSON, XML. So I'm not, the database I'm not even going to talk about much. I did create an appendix at the end of the slide deck where I wrote 2 modules that show you how to take a CSV file that you create, do all the mapping in code, and then import it into a Drupal site. But what I'm going to focus on more is on this side, the no-code content migration side, the right side over here, which is once you have content in your Drupal site, you can export it into multiple files. The way I've done it is I create 1 file per content type. And I'm actually going to be showing the contents of those files so you can kind of get an idea of what your content looks like in a CSV file. And then we take that, and using the content in module on the second site, we import and generate the content with the 2 clicks that I mentioned. And I'm going to, this will start to make more sense when I show you the demos. One thing you want to notice here is the difference in the CSV files. It's a subtle difference, but it's the reason why we can export content to a flat CSV file and then import it back in. I don't know if you guys know, but the way that nodes are stored in Drupal, fields are hierarchical. So like the body field has subfields, and other fields have different data structures within Drupal. So basically, this module is actually exporting all that out into the file. So at first, when I tried to do that, obviously I couldn't keep the references of fields, subfields, or multi-value fields. Like if you have a field that has several tags, taxonomy, right? It's tag 1, tag 2, tag 4. That one field contains 3 values. So you have to be able to represent that in the file. Otherwise, if you don't preserve the way it's stored in Drupal, how can you get it back into Drupal? So this is kind of an important part of the presentation for you guys to, and when you see the files, they'll make sense to you, because I'll probably even show you the file I used to, it's almost like I'm kind of building a little more intelligence into the file, instead of having to have a very simple file and write a lot of code to interpret what everything is. Since the information in Drupal is already there, I'm trying to preserve that and put that into the file so then it can be easily more imported later. So this slide is kind of important because this is kind of what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to have 2 sites. One has content. I'll use the content module to create the CSV files, and then I'll go to the second site that's blank, and then with the content in module, take that same file and import the content, and it'll be exactly the same. Any questions? Because this is kind of the part where I've kind of explained kind of what I'm doing, so if you have any questions. Yes?
When you look at your CSV files, bringing them in, are the content types already structured on the other side?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
so
a good point.
Copy your structures over.
Yeah, and I will talk a little bit about that, because I'm using since these are both 7 sites, the demos I'm showing you, I'm using bundle copy to copy the content types from the first site to the second site. And then I'm also, like for the tags, I'm using taxonomy CSV, which I have in one of the slides. Taxonomy CSV to copy the taxonomy tags, for example, the vocabularies from one site to the other. So you do have to set up your second site to have the same structure. Right. But the bundle copy module is very, it's an incredible module because you can export any content type, including all the fields. It creates a text file and they just copy it into the other site.
And that module is called what?
Bundle copy.
Bundle?
Yeah, bundle copy. It'll be in one of the slides.
Sure.
Have another question?
How do you handle views?
Well, this is just content, so it does not handle views.
Do you have to rebuild them or?
Well, there's other tools that let you export views from one 7 site to another.
Okay, but you have to have the structure and the content on place before you can go on and.
Yeah, view is made up of
Yeah.
structures. Yeah, they had to be there first.
Yeah, right. So if you have views on one site and not on the other, you won't have them, because that's kind of a good question, because it highlights the fact that I'm just moving content,
Yeah, okay.
just pure, like Article 1, all the fields and everything that's in Article 1, and page, which is, yes, go ahead, another question.
Sorry.
No, I mean, I'm sure other people probably have the same question you do.
How do you handle attached files or file fields?
Yeah, well, that's part of the module. Basically, it doesn't just copy the content types. Any fields that are attached to the content type also get exported.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you. I support all the fields that come with Drupal core in 7. I also I'm going to show you an example that has entity references. So you can it actually will copy over all your references.
Okay.
And then if we have time, hopefully we'll also show you some of the other fields that I've added for support, like support email field, address field, date field, media 2 I support. So it's not just kind of a vanilla. I'm trying to make it so that hopefully it will support a lot of content. Yes, question?
Field collections yet?
No, I don't. I haven't tested it yet. So
when you're importing the data, is this purely the backend data what you're trying to migrate, or is it something the categories where you create or clone the categories of files?
Well, if a category is a field on a content type, and that field is whatever widget it's using to store that information, all that gets. I'll show you the demo. Will
How are you making associations, and how you're making sure the association is set, when you're copying to another?
Because it's the same content type on both sites. So the first example is I'm going to show you article and page, which comes with every Drupal site. Then I'm going to show you examples I've created of my own content types that have their own custom fields or fields attached to them. But you have, that's why his first question was bundle copy is used to copy over all your content types. So say you have 10 content types of site 1, you have to copy them over the 10 to site 2. If you don't have them, the module will say this content type does not exist. It won't let you import.
But in Drupal 7 you had nodes, right? Nodes terminology, but Drupal 8 uses content. I'm going to be talking a little bit about 8 at the end, what I'm doing with 8, but all the examples are all going to be 7 to 7. Oh, okay, 7 to 7.
Yeah. All right, okay. So I'm going to get right into exporting content with the content out module. So as you can see from the other slide, I took a portion of it. So basically, we have a Drupal 7 site with some content on it, and we're actually going to create the CSV files. And that's right now. So, okay, so here's my site 1. I'm calling it content out. This site already has some content on it, as you can see. It has articles and pages. I actually used, in the Appendix A, I wrote 2 modules to import articles and pages. That's why all these say new. So they were imported using that module with their own CSV files. And then I just modified 2 to add more. I added some image files so you can see it'll copy over the files attached to a content type. I have tags on this, so you'll see that it'll copy all that over. And then for the page, here I added a URL. It preserves the formatting in your field, like if you have carriage returns, you'll see it'll preserve that as well. So here's the site. The module content out that I wrote is, and the slide deck will show you the screenshot. So you just follow the demo. I took a lot of screenshots of this and I put them in the slide deck. So later on, when you review it, you can see how I created everything. And you'll see that right after I do this demo, I'll show you. So the content out module. You basically have to pick one content type. It automatically will search through all your content types and give you a list of the possible content that you can export. So I'm going to export all my articles. I'm going to put it in the data, and then I write the file. And it actually created the file on the server, but you could also download it here. So here's, if you remember, I had 10 articles. So here's the header of the CSV file. If you notice, one thing that's different, this is what I talked about, the hierarchy. Can you guys see this? Should I make it a little bigger? Is that good? Okay, a little more? How's that? Okay, so here's the header row. As you can see, it's exporting a lot of the fields on the article, all these. One thing you'll want to notice is I'm using a separator. Like the body field has a lot of subfields, so I'm representing it as body, 3 underscores, and summary. So body's a field, format subfield. Body's a field, save value is a subfield. For the image fields, as you can see, they all have, so I'm also exporting all the subfields under a field, which I couldn't find any other module that did that in this way. So that's why I had to create the content out module to get content out, so then later on I can then import it back in. And you can see that most of them are the same except the last one. As you can see, it's a lot bigger because I have the actual file names, the paths, all the extra information I added after I imported it. It's just exporting whatever's there. So now let me export the basic page. And I made the UI simple as possible. You pick your content type, you put the name of the file and the path, and click write the file. It creates the file for you. So I'm always thinking when I'm doing something how other people want to use it. So I wanted to make it at least what I see as the simplest way. So I created the page data. See, that's going to look different because the format of all the fields inside a page are different. See, there is no body field. Oh, there is a body field, but there's no file. There's no images. I mean, and there's the content, including the last one, which here's the URL I added. As you can see, like in the file, if there's character returns, I use the pipes to show that these are end of line characters. So then I'm actually trying to keep the formatting I'm trying to keep as much of the structure, if not all of the structure that you have on your site that you're going from. So when you do a 2, it shows up exactly the same. Okay, so I've created these 2 files. They're on the server, so they're, I guess, let me go back to the slides now. Hold on. I was going to show you the other demo, but first let me, so here's a screenshot of the things that I did. I created a basic Drupal 7 site. Here's how you pull in the code from, you put this in on your command line, you pull in the content out module from the Drupal sandbox. You enable the module, and then this is the path to the config page. Here's a screenshot of the articles. So you can see the path up here. And then here's how you have an option to do the URL like I showed you, and then the name and what you click on. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about, so we have a site that we want to export. We created the CSV files. Now we're going to go to the second site that's blank, and we're going to try to import everything. So this is really the part that's the no-code content migration. Normally, you'd have to write code to look at that CSV file, create the mappings in the Migrate UR or using Drush. So this is so here's the files that we just created, articles and pages, and now we're going to go on a blank site and import all that content. So now, okay. So, okay, this is the old site, it has all the content. Here's a new site, content in. This is like my site 2. I'm going to show you there's no content on this site. Obviously, the content types are already here because it's article. This comes with every Drupal site, so that's why I did it this way, so to make it easy. And then the Migrate module, Migrate UI, there's no migrations right now. So this is where you would see all the migrations. Because the Migrate module is kind of like a temporary space that has mappings of your source, whether it's a database or a file, to your destination, which could be a node, which could be a user, could be different things in Drupal. So the site's blank. So I have to copy over the files manually, right? From one site to the other. Someone said I should add an upload button on the other site so that it's easier you could download it to your computer and then have an upload. I haven't implemented that yet, but this way you can actually see the structure. So here's the content out site. I put the public directory in Drupal is the files directory, and I put it in data. As you can see, this is today's data over here. These were just created. So I'm going to take these 2 files. This is the site 1. I'm going to copy them over. This is the content insight. Files directory. So I'm going to put them in here. Paste. So I've copied them now into my second site. So now I can the content in module is in similar space to the content out. So this is the admin page. So one thing I've added is the ability to see if the file exists, because sometimes before you try to import, you want to see if the file exists. So since I had copied it over, it tells me right there that it exists where you say it is. So you're now ready to import it. right? So all I'd have to do is click Set Up Migrations, and you dynamically register the migration. This is the big difference between writing your code, where you have to, in your code, write the name of the classes, the names of the migrations. This module actually looks at your file and creates all that dynamically. So if I go over to my Migrate page, you can see it created this article import. If I click on article import, you can see it tells you it has 10 items in it. None have been imported yet. They're unprocessed. I'll click on article. As you can see, not only does it set up the migration, it also does all of the housekeeping here of mapping all your destinations per content type. So that's the source is what's in the file, the headers. This is the mapping. It does all this automatically. The code is generating all this. The content in module is generating all this. Normally you'd have to write code to set up your source migration, mapping which values get mapped to what. This is being done automatically by the module. Just when I hit set up migrations, all the code generated all this. And here's some that maybe do not migrate. So let me go and let me import the page now. Pages. So I'm going to set up migrations. It tells me dynamically registered the page content type. I go over to Migrate UI, and now I have a page import. That has 8 items in it. And again, all the mappings are different. See, the numbers are different because this content type has different field mappings, including the mapping from the source, which is in the file, to the destination. Like one little thing you may want to notice here is this is how I preserve the structure. So the body field with a subfield format, on the Migrate module sees it as body colon. So that's telling you that it has been mapped correctly. Okay, so as you can see, I still have no content on the site. But now that the content in module has created all the registrations dynamically, now you use the Migrate module like you would it normally, but you just avoided having to write all that code. So I'm going to just select both. I'm going to hit import. And it tells you process 10 records. So now if you go to the content page, created all that content, including all the images came over, the taxonomy came over. This is on the second site that was blank.
Question?
Yes.
You transferred all the images over to the files directory ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a step that didn't go through. I just want to be sure.
Right, yeah, that's
I made the paths to the images, not.
yeah, that's one thing I had already done. Just like I'd created the content type. As you can see, the way I wrote the module is there's a subdirectory called uploads, and you put all the files that were on your old site on the new site. And since I'm using these dummy images just to show you that that they transfer correctly, including one thing that may not be obvious is, since you know how in Drupal when you create a field you can say only have one or have unlimited. Right. Well, if you have unlimited, it's going to bring them all over, okay. And that's what I'm showing you. I added 2 so you can see that if there's 2 on the.
It's recursive.
Yeah, it's. Well, the file has all of the. Yeah, it'll actually go through and do that. Yeah, it does. So that's a good point. Yeah, it's. So I have these 2 images, 2 text files. That's why they showed up. That was a good, yeah. I'm glad it shows you're paying attention. That's a good thing. So that was the article. And then the page. So the page, yeah. The page actually, I preserved all of the spacing, if you remember. I preserved the URL as well. Yes.
Yeah, if your image files were like mapped to an a server somewhere else, like an NSF server, would it,
You have to copy the files over. You have to copy the files into this directory called uploads. The content in module will looks at
it won't just preserve references?
well the file. Well, it takes a reference of the old, right? So I had it public. I use the same data structure on both sides.
Right, so like if they're in an NFS server, then,
You would need to move the images. The images are external to the site.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there would be nothing to move. He's like saying you have a YouTube and he's pointing at a YouTube or an image on another.
Well, if it's a URL, it'll copy the URL.
Yeah, right.
So if you have a URL, like that's why I showed you the page. See this URL? That was on the old site. So if you had a URL on one side, since it's a text string and it's in the CSV file, I export it. Then, right, URLs are easier because it's just text. But the physical files, because when it goes to look at when it goes to import the file, it'll look in the CSV file, it'll look at the names, and then it'll look for that name inside that uploads directory. That's the way I coded it right now, and maybe a better way later to do it. But it's easier. It's just you just put all your media files in one directory, because that's how Drupal handles files anyways. It puts it in one directory. So I just went with that. So that's kind of the first demo. It's kind of like, up to now, it's kind of self-contained, what I was going to show you. Now I'm going to go and do more demos. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how things were set up. But basically, I want you to see, so that's with article, right? Articles and pages, which already come with Drupal. Now I'm going to go show you, okay, what if I create a content type and I had my own fields with my own widgets, text, different, Drupal uses different, right? So I'm going to do it on time. Okay, let's see. So this is kind of what I just did. This is the second site. It was blank, kind of the same structure as the other one. Here's the modules that I used as the first install. Here's your question about bundle copy. I use bundle copy to create well, in this case, I didn't have to because it comes with every Drupal site. But say if you had your own content types, you would use bundle copy to copy them from one side to the other. And then I use a taxonomy CSV module to actually copy over the vocabulary. So that way, when the tags, yes?
What if you modify the article content type? Will your module know that it's been modified?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I showed you. Yeah. Oh, well, when you copy. Well, yeah, you'll have to copy that over yourself. Yeah. So if say you, actually, I actually did do that because on articles it used to come with the tags already. Now it didn't come with it, so I added it. I added a category. So on content in, if you go to content, you just have to make sure both content types are identical on both sites. The module assumes that you have the structure. If you have the structure that's not right, it won't import because it'll try to put it.
So then another solution would be to just delete the content types, right?
No, you need them. The module will, because the module looks, every file, there's a column in the file that says what content type it is. So I look at that, and then you can only have one content type per file the way I wrote it. That's why I have two files for two content. That's why when you export, you're only allowed to export one at a time, because I preserve that structure. The structure of what content type the content belongs to is stored in the fact that every row says the type is of content type article or content type page.
Right, but you said you're using the copy bundle module, right?
Well, here I didn't really have to because articles, but I did.
Right, so basically I was basically saying.
Right, so I had to add this category field for the term references that you saw. So I had to do that on both sites.
So then, well, I never tried to delete the article content page.
No, I didn't delete it. I just added.
I see what he's saying. Let me try to rephrase what he's saying. If you did bundle copy on the source site, and you came over here and you removed all your content types on the receiving site,
Including article and.
including the default ones that came with it, and then
It
you
won't
bundle
import.
copy to bring them all over, then they would match without having to add the extra field in like you did with taxonomy.
Right, yeah. I just did
You're
that.
correct there, yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
So you won't have to think, oh, I have to add.
I have 2 other demos that I want to show you before, hopefully, and that'll kind of show you what I'm kind of talking about. Let me go back to. So this is I'm actually just showing you that here's like I copied over the CSV files to the data directory from one side to the other. Here's how you get the content in module, and oops. And here's a screenshot, so you can see where you go on your Drupal site to find the content in module. And so I have all these screenshots for you, so you can have an idea later on when you leave here what the flow is of the module. It's almost like I'm self-documenting in the slides, or documenting in the slides the steps you take to create it yourself. And I even showed you the mappings here a little bit. And then the import, when you click, it tells you how many were processed. Now, one thing that I didn't show you, before I do the entity reference demo, let me show you something. So let's say that you create all this content for a client, and the client says, you know, I don't have any money, I can't pay you. So what you do is you go to the Migrate page, you select all of the content, you roll it back, and guess what happens? The content is gone from the site. And then when they pay you, oh, okay, yeah, I got your check. So let me go back and, how long will it take? Oh, well, I'll get to it today. Oh, thank you so much. No extra cost. So then you select it back, you hit import again, and it imports all the content again. So that's a great thing about the Migrate module. You can manage your content more easily. And that's when I wrote the module, I wanted to use the existing Migrate module functionality because it's so powerful, and it's in Drupal core. In 8 and 7, it's a contrib module. So that's the great thing about this. And I'm going to show this in the other demos where you can create your content and then roll it back and then re-import it. So that was one thing I wanted to show you. So now I'm going to do another demo. Here I'm going to show you how. Who knows what an entity reference is? Okay, that's most of you, so that's good. So basically, here's an example. I create a simple example: grandparents, parents, and children. So I have a grandparent. His child is a parent of these children. And if you go look at the custom content types that I created one called grandparent. And as you can see, all these are custom fields that I've created. I mean, not in code, but I've added these fields, a text field, an image, not an integer, and these are entity references to the other 2 levels deep. So if you go to the parent, so the grandparent has a child, and then its child is grandchild. So that's why I have 2 entity references. Think of it of an upside down tree. The grandparents at the top, the parents, and then the children. So there's 2 levels. And the levels can keep going. The module just will cycle through them. And then if I go look at the parent, if I look at the fields, the parent has 1 child, so it has 1 entity reference to their children. And then the child content type has no entity references. So now I'm going to use we're going to export all this content to CSV files. I'm going to show you the CSV file so you can see how entity references are put into the file, and then we're going to import them into the second site. So I'm going to go over to content authoring, content out. As you can see, it automatically looks for all of your content types on your site, and I didn't delete article or basic page. They're still there, even though I'm not. So I'm going to export the child. Child CSV. So write the file. Again, here's a child. As you can see, here's all the fields. These are all the custom fields I created. Child name. And here's Brendan, the title of it. As you can see, everything that's on that content type is in here. So let me, that was child, grandparent. So as you can see, the grandparent, I only have one piece of content, but the IDs that were used are in here in the file. And so when then I import it back in, I keep track of the references. So let me export the parent real quick. And then I'll show you. So this is a way of showing you, if you create your own content type with your own fields, you could still use this module. And the entity reference is important because it's a field it's really important in Drupal. If you're building a site the right way, you tend to have you do have a lot of entity references. Okay, so now I have to copy the family.
Remember to download the parent file?
Here's the one that just created at 4:05 p.m. right here.
Okay.
These are the ones that I just created. Copy. I'm going to go to I'm calling it family in. Files directory. Data is empty right now. I'm going to paste them in. Okay. So now I'm going to go to the family in page, which is blank right now. It does have the content type, so I did use bundle copy. The bundle copies, they're already there, right? I use bundle copy, and the bundle copy is easy to use. You just click on a content type, you say export, and it creates a text string that you just copy and paste. It's very easy to use. It's very powerful. Taxonomy CSV. So there it is. So yeah, but there's no content on this site, as you can see. I just copied over and there's no migrations. So now I'm going to go back, go to content in. I'm back to this UI data. I'm going to import the files that import the child first. So it registered it. I'm going to do the parent next. Importing them. And then I'm going to do grand. So now if I go to my Migrate UI, I have the three. So the module actually will read what's in there and create your migration classes based on your content type. So as you can see, there's 6 children. They're unprocessed. Hopefully there's no errors. Good. That's always good. See, there's all the mappings. So it handles custom things that you create yourself. There you see the fields, the source, the destination. It's all created for you. So now I'm going to go to Migrate. I'm going to I click it? Okay. Now, there's entity reference, right? So the grandparent shouldn't be imported until both the parent and the child are there, because if you try to import the grandparent, all the references will not get mapped correctly because they're not in the database. So the way that Migrate Module works, if I select all of the content, it'll go alphabetically down. So it's going to try child first, then it's going to try grandparent, and then it's going to try parent. So obviously, it can't import the grandparent before the parent. So I'll show you what happens. So as you can see, it only imported the child and the parent, and it said skipped grandparent due to unfulfilled dependencies, parent. And if you look over here, it imported child and parent, but not grandparent. So now I just click on the one that didn't get imported, and it'll import it because the other two are there. But it handles it. And now if you go to the content, it's all there. This is the new site with all the content. All the references are there. The children are there. So the same content is on both sites. And now I'm going to show you what, again, this customer doesn't like to pay, so we have to sometimes roll back all of their content. I'm going to roll it all back at once. So that you can do, because when it comes out, it's coming out all at once. So if you go to content, it's all gone. And then I can go back and re-import it, which this is something that was hard to do, because importing export, I have to keep track of all the references that are changing. So I got it to work. So now I'm going to re-import. Again, it's going to complain about the grandparents. You could do one at a time in the right order. I'm just trying to show you that if you want to make it quicker, you can. And it tells you, see, these are imported complete. This one's ready to import. So just because normally you'd have to write code to tell that your different content types are dependent on each other. But the code looks, when it has entity references, it double checks and it goes and sees if there's any dependencies, and if it does, the code classifies that for you. That's why you get this message.
Is that because it doesn't in the alphabetical order of that list?
Yeah, because you're importing it out of order. That's all it means.
Only doing it in the order in Migrate, just doing it in that order. Is there any way to reorder that?
Well, yeah, you could just do one at a time.
Well, I mean, is there any way to reorder it within Migrate?
That's the way the Migrate module works. Okay, just works that way. You would just pick these two, import them. That's the way you should do it, actually. I just wanted to show you that it handles that error or potential error condition. You would do first. Well, since I know that it's going to do top down, it's going to do child then parent. So I can click both of these and it'll do it. And then you would do the. Okay, so I think I. Do you guys want to see one more demo with a few other fields? There's like 8 minutes left.
Yeah.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
First question is more kind of philosophical. Just your opinion. Why did you choose to export it to CSV?
I chose CSV because it's the most common file type that's used between systems. So theoretically, the content in module right now is really geared towards working with Drupal, but theoretically, why not WordPress? Why not some other source? So I chose CSV because there's a lot of legacy systems, and most of them support CSV.
My daughter didn't like the question I asked.
Yeah, so did that answer it? That's kind of why I picked it. I mean, theoretically, I could have used JSON. Plus, it's easier to read, too, because...
Bring it into a spreadsheet.
Yeah, and it's supported by a lot of tools that people normally, like... Let's see, child...
You find that you modify it manually? Sorry, follow-up question.
Well, you're not supposed to, but you see here, it's a little easier to... See, it's easier to read because you just have the headers and then the content inside, right? That's kind of why I chose it. I had to pick one, and it's easier to read here. See, here I'm using the separator here for hierarchical fields. If I go over to, oops.
Is there any cap on the data size?
Well, I haven't done any load testing on it yet, so yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you. So I've focused more on just getting the functionality to work, and then you're right. Eventually, I'll have to start to see how big a file can I export and then import. Okay, you have a question?
Yeah. So, how you the case when you have content and then you have author and then the permission are different for the author, and then if you put the content to vanilla side,
Right.
you know that the user ID will
Yes, that's a good question, actually. If you notice, all the content was imported by the same user, which means that the users, so not only do you have to have your content types on both sides, if you have, say, 10 users on side A, you have to have those same 10 users on side B, because if you try to import content by a user that's not in the system, the module will not import. It'll say user such and such, ID such and such is missing, I cannot import this content. So what I did for my own stuff, this demo is, I wanted to show you but on a real site you probably have multiple users. There's different ways of importing users into a Drupal site. I created my own module, which is actually in the, I put it in with the custom, the old approach. I use a custom module called import users that will use the Migrate module to take a CSV file with users and their information and import them into Drupal. Because, yes, because if any content has an ID of a user that's not in the system, it'll get flagged and content in module will not import that content type. Questions? You haven't asked yet, so.
A couple of things. One, do you have any plans to push these on to be full-blown contrib modules?
I kind of do. So I want to. Well, the code is already out there. It's just making them official. But I have to answer the other question. For them to be official, I'd have to do load testing. I'd have to do a lot of other tests before, because people would download them these presentations are a way for me to see if there's interest in this mod, because this is kind of a methodology I came up with. I don't know if people are.
You already have full developer privileges, full contributor privileges.
He's more interested in the process.
Or
no, I don't. That's I haven't investigated.
Reviewing, I'd be glad to help review when you get to that point.
Well, I don't want to go over.
Another question is, have you looked any into, for instance, being able to go content from 6 to 7? I guess. I
haven't done you'd have to have a content out from 6, and then theoretically, I haven't done that.
I presume if you could do a content out from in 6, that would put out a CSV.
Right, I'd have to have a content out for 6 to create the same CSV file that you would see in 7, and then import it. Yeah, you're right. I haven't done that. So before I only have a few minutes, I want to at least finish the slides. Some of you already asked this, what are my plans for 8? I mean, I've already started, as you can see here, this is a Drupal 8 site, and I already have some of the functionality ported over, but it's not, I'm still working on it. But for me, the holy grail would be so I'm even getting cheers from other rooms on this, to export your content out of Drupal 7 with 1 click, and then with 2 clicks import it into 8. So that would be great. And that's what my ultimate goal is, but right now I started with 7 because it's easier to understand the dynamics. Because some people do export from, like, say, if you want to copy, sometimes your site got hacked or something happened and you just want the content, or you want to back up your content, so it's a way to do it. You can decouple your content by using CSV and then decide whether you want to import it later or not. So it has more than one purpose, not just moving content. And here's all the links, including the modules that I wrote for the importing users and how to do it the traditional approach. Here's the links to all the code. There's my information. You contact me. I got a contact form. Twitter, I use Twitter a lot, so that's really where you want to find me. And I guess we've asked all the questions, so.
Is the slideshow available?
I already tweeted out the slides, so you can just go to my Twitter account there. And
Can you go back to the slides with the links?
Well, if you go to my Twitter account, you can get all the slides. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming.